Welcome to this presentation on sustainability in education, based on the writing of C. Ballard, who wrote, "Considering ecological impact should become second nature, and thus begin to replace the cultural myth that humans can survive the destruction of the environment they depend upon by further technological developments." In this presentation, I've chosen to present contrasting images in order to zero in on some of the key ideas identified by Ballard. These contrasting images are meant to prompt discussion on differing perspectives in our capitalistic society, which is largely driven by market consumerism. Conversations around sustainability are becoming more common, and these are necessary conversations if we are to create the global commons, which is necessary for all our survival. Compare and contrast the images in the following slides. How are the images similar? How are they different? What other images would illustrate different perspectives? Which image denotes consumerism, and in what ways? Which image denotes a more sustainable lifestyle, and how so? Please note there are no examples that entirely denote consumerism or entirely denote sustainability. There are arguments to be made in either example for the presence of the opposite idea. Let's consider creative arts. I asked my daughter, who's studying for her master's in fine arts, for an example of folk art compared to art consumerism, and she suggested comparing a pair of mittens knit from traditional folk mitt pattern using hand-dyed merino wool from Peru with shark, an installation by Damien Hirst, currently on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, which is perhaps one of the most expensive art installations of all time. In what ways are the images similar? In what ways are they different? Which other images would illustrate these perspectives? Which image denotes consumerism? In what way? And which image denotes a sustainable lifestyle? And how so? Let's consider ceremonies and narratives. How is it that our youth sometimes become alienated from the traditional wisdom passed down through generations? It's at least in part due to advertising and marketing targeting our youth. It tends to promote individualistic technological innovation. It hinders youth's ability to form their own interests, to find and follow their passions, or to engage in those constructivist learning activities. It inhibits them from forming their own values. What we teach regarding sustainability is not always going to be popular with all students, because it often contradicts popular culture. This is just one example of our taken for granted effective market liberalism or advertising on today's world, which, if left unchecked, works against creating a true global community. A comprehensive commons curriculum is introduced with varying degrees of difficulty at different grade levels, at all grade levels, from early years through to university. So in early years, it may be appropriate to do a study in comparative religions in how we understand, let's say, the Golden Rule. That is, how have different religions interpreted the concept that one should do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Discussion can then follow on what one would do if someone should break the Golden Rule. It would also be appropriate to look for and teach to the underlying fundamental values common to all religions, such as love, honesty, respect, family, and so on. In the upper grades, it would be appropriate to examine various spiritual ceremonies, or to examine how religious beliefs reconcile market liberalism or consumerism, or examine how consumer culture contradicts the moral and spiritual commons, individualism, instant gratification, and how, in some ways, promotes an indifference towards supportive relationships. There's a lot to be learned through the study of the differences in environmental landscapes. For instance, the way that the market would promote an environment for consumerism versus our understanding of a traditional enjoyment of the landscape. It's important to continue to raise awareness of the effects on animal and plant life and raise awareness of species who are on the brink of extinction, like many of our pollinators, who once gone could rip holes in the web of life and cause further extinction of other animal and plant forms. Bowers writes about how cultural ways influence landscape, and I chose these two images because I thought they would be good for discussion starters on that topic. The study of the landscape can expose the difference between indigenous beliefs about how to treat Mother Earth and expose some real differences in belief paradigms. Comparing and contrasting these pictures would be one way to discuss and discover how technology reduces awareness of landscape. What other images could be used to teach that concept? These images are meant as a discussion starter or a place for beginning to understand what happens when that intergenerational knowledge is not honored. Key concepts of sustainability relate to how knowledge and language is transmitted from generation to generation. Ask yourself if the following images speak to the concepts of sustainability that they are meant to help illustrate. So in addition to using technology to connect students with global counterparts, educators also need to acknowledge the devastating effect of market liberalism and technology on world cultures, world poverty, and natural resources, and ask how we need to transform. I strongly recommend you take a few minutes to watch The Story of Stuff with Annie Leonard. It's a 20-minute video that explains many of these concepts in greater detail than I have the time to discuss in this short presentation, and it's ideal for use with high school students.